The warm morning sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ashford Global's executive headquarters as hundreds of employees gathered in the grand lobby for the company's annual leadership charity breakfast. Television crews moved between elegant tables while executives greeted influential guests with polished smiles. Near the refreshment station stood a quietly dressed single father balancing a plate in one hand and helping his 8-year-old daughter adjust the ribbon in her hair with the other. His simple navy suit looked years old, but it was perfectly clean. As the company's charismatic CEO, Vanessa Holloway, walked past during a light-hearted interview, she noticed the reserved father standing alone. Smiling mischievously at the cameras, she laughed and asked, "When was your last date?" The audience chuckled, expecting an awkward answer. The single father calmly looked into her eyes, smiled gently, and replied, "Right now, with you." The entire room burst into laughter, but within seconds that playful answer would begin changing both of their lives in ways neither of them could have imagined. If you believe kindness, confidence, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in treating everyone with respect, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories filled with hope and inspiration. The man's name was Nathan Keller. 4 years earlier he had lost his beloved wife, Hannah, after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their daughter, Ava, alone. Since then, every decision he made centered around giving Ava a joyful childhood despite their painful loss. Nathan worked as an independent industrial designer whose inventions quietly improved manufacturing systems used by companies around the world. Although financially successful, he lived modestly, drove an old station wagon, and rarely attended public events unless they supported children's charities. Nathan had accepted an invitation to Ashford Global's charity breakfast because the proceeds would fund pediatric hospitals. Ava insisted on coming with him because she wanted to donate the savings from her small allowance to children who were even less fortunate. To Nathan, that generosity mattered far more than business networking. Vanessa Holloway, meanwhile, had earned a reputation as one of the youngest CEOs in the industry. Brilliant, fearless, and admired by investors, she also possessed a playful sense of humor that often made interviews entertaining. When she spotted Nathan standing quietly away from the crowd, she assumed he was simply another shy guest overwhelmed by the glamorous atmosphere. Her spontaneous joke about his dating life was meant to entertain the audience. No one expected his answer. Nathan's calm response carried no arrogance. No embarrassment. Only quiet confidence and genuine warmth. The audience laughed. Even Vanessa laughed harder than anyone else. For the first time that morning, she looked beyond his modest appearance and noticed something unusual. Instead of trying to impress anyone, Nathan had immediately returned his attention to Ava, helping her carry a tray of juice without caring that television cameras were still pointed in his direction. The interview ended, but Vanessa found herself unexpectedly curious. Most people spent their conversations with her discussing business opportunities or asking for favors. Nathan had done neither. A few minutes later, Ava accidentally dropped several handmade thank you cards she had prepared for children in the hospital. Before anyone else reacted, Vanessa knelt beside her expensive heels and helped gather every colorful card from the polished floor. Ava smiled brightly and thanked her. Nathan sincerely appreciated the small act of kindness. That simple moment erased the awkwardness of the earlier joke. As breakfast continued, the three of them unexpectedly shared the same table after seating arrangements changed. Conversation flowed naturally. They spoke about family, childhood dreams, volunteer work, and the importance of teaching children compassion before ambition. Vanessa was surprised to discover that Nathan never mentioned his business achievements. He talked only about Ava. That impressed her more than any success story. Just as the event seemed to be ending peacefully, one of Ashford Global's senior board members hurried toward Vanessa carrying an urgent folder. He quietly whispered that an anonymous bidder had just submitted an offer to purchase a controlling interest in Ashford Global. The identity of the investor had remained completely confidential. Until that morning. And when Vanessa opened the final page, she looked across the room at Nathan in complete disbelief. Vanessa Holloway stared at the final page of the confidential report, hardly believing what she was reading. The anonymous investor who had quietly accumulated a significant ownership stake in Ashford Global over several years was none other than Nathan Keller. He had never sought publicity, never attended shareholder meetings, and never tried to influence the company's leadership. His investments had always remained silent through a private family trust. The board members watched Vanessa carefully, expecting shock, but what surprised them most was that Nathan himself seemed completely uninterested in power. When the breakfast concluded, Vanessa politely asked Nathan if they could speak privately. He agreed, while Ava happily joined the children's charity activities nearby under the supervision of volunteers. Sitting in a quiet garden filled with bright morning flowers, Vanessa asked the question that had been occupying her mind. Why had he never revealed who he really was? Nathan smiled gently. He explained that after losing Hannah, he had stopped caring about recognition. Wealth, influence, and headlines had never eased the pain of coming home to an empty chair at the dinner table. Investing had simply allowed him to secure Ava's future and quietly support companies whose values matched his own. He believed people behaved more honestly when they did not know who was watching. Vanessa listened without interrupting. For the first time in years, she wasn't speaking with someone trying to impress her. She was speaking with someone who had already discovered what truly mattered. Nathan then surprised her again. He admitted that he had never intended to buy control of Ashford Global. The growing ownership had happened naturally through long-term investments made by his financial advisors over many years. His only concern was ensuring the company continued supporting charitable programs for children and families. Those words deeply moved Vanessa. She realized she had spent years measuring success through quarterly reports, market value, and investor confidence. Nathan measured success by lives improved. That afternoon, they visited the pediatric hospital together to personally deliver donations collected during the charity breakfast. Ava walked from room to room handing out handmade cards and small gifts to children receiving treatment. Watching Nathan comfort frightened parents with quiet kindness revealed a side of him that cameras could never capture. Vanessa noticed something else. Every child smiled when Nathan entered the room. Not because he was wealthy, but because he made every person feel important. As the day ended, reporters waiting outside the hospital asked whether Nathan planned to become actively involved in Ashford Global's leadership now that his ownership had been discovered. Nathan simply smiled. He replied that companies did not always need new owners. Sometimes they simply needed leaders who remembered why they started. Those words appeared across newspapers, television broadcasts, and social media within hours. Public admiration for both Nathan and Ashford Global grew rapidly. Yet just as everything seemed to be improving, the chairman of the board received disturbing news. A rival corporation had secretly begun spreading false information about Nathan's past in an attempt to destroy public trust before the upcoming shareholder meeting. The accusations were completely fabricated. But they spread quickly. And unless the truth was uncovered in time, Nathan could lose everything he had spent years quietly building. The bright morning sun illuminated the entrance of Ashford Global as reporters, shareholders, and employees gathered for the company's annual shareholder meeting. Television cameras were everywhere. Overnight, false stories about Nathan Keller had spread across social media, claiming he had secretly manipulated businesses for personal gain. The rumors were completely untrue, but they had created enough uncertainty to threaten the future of the company and the charity projects Nathan cared so deeply about. Inside the boardroom, Vanessa Holloway stood before hundreds of shareholders. Instead of avoiding the controversy, she chose complete transparency. She calmly explained that an independent investigation had already examined every accusation made against Nathan. Financial regulators, auditors, and legal experts had found no evidence of wrongdoing. The rumors had been deliberately created by a rival corporation hoping to lower Ashford Global's value before attempting a hostile takeover. The room fell silent. Then Nathan quietly stood. Without anger or resentment, he thanked everyone who had taken the time to seek the truth instead of believing headlines. He explained that his greatest achievement had never been building wealth. It had been raising Ava to become a kind, compassionate young girl after losing her mother. Everything else, business success, investments, and recognition, had simply been tools to help other people. His words touched every person in the room. At that very moment, investigators entered with official documents confirming the rival company's involvement in creating the false campaign. Authorities had uncovered emails, financial transfers, and contracts proving the deliberate attempt to damage Nathan's reputation. Criminal investigations were immediately launched, and the rival executives responsible were removed from their positions. Applause filled the hall, but Nathan remained humble. Instead of celebrating another person's downfall, he encouraged everyone to focus on rebuilding trust rather than seeking revenge. He reminded the audience that integrity is proven not when life is easy, but when people choose honesty despite having every opportunity to do otherwise. Vanessa watched him with admiration. She remembered the playful joke she had made during the charity breakfast. "When was your last date?" She smiled as she recalled his unforgettable reply. "Right now, with you." At the time, everyone had laughed. Now she realized those words had begun a friendship neither of them expected. Over the following months, Nathan accepted a position as chairman of Ashford Global's charitable foundation rather than becoming CEO. Vanessa remained the company's chief executive, but her leadership changed completely. Together they expanded scholarships for single-parent families, funded pediatric hospitals, and created mentorship programs for children who had lost one or both parents. Ava became the unofficial heart of every charity event. Her handmade cards continued bringing smiles to young patients across the country. One evening, after opening a new children's medical center funded by the foundation, Vanessa and Nathan stood outside watching the sunset while Ava played nearby with other children. Vanessa quietly admitted that the best thing that had happened to her career had not been a promotion or a business deal. It had been meeting one humble single father who reminded her that kindness is the strongest form of leadership. Nathan smiled. He looked toward Ava and softly replied that every beautiful future begins with one simple decision: to treat another person with respect before judging them. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness is more valuable than appearances, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories filled with hope, family, and second chances. Special request. Comment: kindness creates the greatest success. As the golden evening sunlight reflected across the hospital windows, Vanessa gently took Nathan's hand. Their first date had started as a joke in front of millions of viewers. Months later, it had become the beginning of a partnership built on compassion, honesty, and love. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments become the most meaningful chapters of our lives.